Good morning. My name is Scott Gibson. I run an agricultural consultancy in North Carolina. I'm here to talk to you today about the potential of looking at a new type of crop to use for animal feeds and potentially other uses. The climate situation involves the need for new technology to reduce our carbon footprint, and that's especially in production of animal feed. We need hectares, we need acres to be used to store millions of metric tons of carbon. Nitrous oxide emissions also need to be significantly reduced. And the erosion control that impacts hypoxia zones in the Gulf of Mexico and the East Coast need to have better control. The soil microbiome, it needs to be replenished and maintained, and this is especially true on highly erodible lands that are planted to annual production of commodity crops and feed grains. And we have to accomplish all of this while producing food, feed, fuel, and fiber as needed. According to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, carbon sequestration will be a critical strategy for atmospheric carbon to safe levels. In another report, the IPCC, the same United Nations panel, stated that a shift from annual plants to perennials for food and feed is needed to also reduce erosion, fertilizer runoff, and improve carbon sequestration. We know plants absorb carbon, and the best plants to store carbon are trees. And the annual production of corn is not carbon neutral. It produces more greenhouse gases and other sequestering little carbon in the soil. 27 million acres of corn, grain sorghum, and soybeans are grown on highly erodible land. So our idea is to let's plant trees there instead. So our challenge to academia, agricultural research, who we have a lot of confidence in and has built a strong agricultural industry across the world, is can oak trees provide a feed substitute for corn? Now, we're not talking about a forest. Imagine an orchard production of oak trees, like we would oranges, almonds, pistachio, and walnuts. Each tree is accessible to treat, care for, and harvest acorns. With further research and development, acorns could provide a valuable source of feed for livestock, from pigs to even ruminants like cattle. And again, this idea is not about diversification or agroforestry as much. It is about developing a potential replacement crop that can mitigate several of the problems we've already talked about related to climate, and while maintaining at the same time production of feed and food. Let's look at the different situations related to production. For instance, income, profitability. If you look at yield of corn versus what we would need for acorns to be on a flat playing field, currently we produce about 178 bushels per acre of feed corn. At $5 an acre, that's about $900 gross income. It can be up to probably $1,000. If we use the same crop yield, that's about 5 tons of corn per acre. So if you were growing oak trees in an orchard at approximately, say, 180 to 200 plants or trees per acre, you'd need between 50 and 54 pounds of acorns per tree to equal that same weight. And that would have to have a return price of approximately $4.80 a tree. Now, that doesn't include looking at what we've done with our income stream by looking at cost of production. And using Iowa State University's data, we think that about $112 per acre per year would be taken off the cost of production for the farmer. But additionally to that, if we look at private and government support programs versus corn, one of the big problems that is not clear yet is carbon sequestration. How do you determine that for annual crops? How solid is the data? This data would be very solid for oak trees or any type of tree because they have significantly greater support from both private banks and government programs based on the solid data that you would have on how much carbon is being sequestered. It's true we can use no-till and cover crops for annuals, but they sequester very little carbon. Now, they're very good for the soil. They're very good for the biome down there. But also, if you look at an orchard environment, the middle rows would be planted to perennial crops. That would add more nitrogen to the soil, and you'd be yielding further support payments for that. So let's look at what the potential would be. Let's just say you estimate 7 million acres per year of oak trees in an orchard environment. Well, we found out that it looks like oak hardwoods range between 1 to 4 million tons CO2 per acre per year in sequestration. Now, the larger number is for acreage taken out of crop production. So you'd be looking at 7 to 28 equivalent million tons of carbon dioxide per year. Nitrous oxide emissions, according to the National Institute of Health, are about 0.33 MT CO2s equivalents. That would be another 2.3 million tons of CO2 equivalents. So it's anywhere between 10 to 30 million extra tons per year taken from the atmosphere. Additionally, there's a potential for the tannins in oak to be part of a feed additive that may influence methane production in ruminant digestibility. If you also look at the potential we have, we would be looking at new varieties, new cultivars of oak trees. We have CRISPR gene editing technology, and I've worked with people here at North Carolina State University who work with trees in CRISPR. They see potential for doing this. And this would create oak varieties that would have utility patents and allow for another type of a business producing seedlings for the farmer. What about the nutritional value? It's very interesting because acorns, 1 ounce serving has 144 calories compared to 110 for an ounce of field corn. They both have 7% protein and about 50% of the carbs. But acorns have 29% fat and 14% fiber, which is much greater than in corn. Additionally, they have several vitamins corn does not have, like E, A, and also B6, but they also have a good amount of iron and a great amount of potassium. So the nutritional value is really quite comparable. The problem we have to face is that the U.S. farmer cannot solve the climate crisis alone. But the climate crisis across the world really can't be solved without the United States farmer and rural economy. So, if you look at the fact that the most expensive pork in the world is raised in Spain, and that particular pig concept is that they are finished in pastures eating acorns. And that ham is actually a red meat, not a white meat. So, is it the new corn? We'd like to see if academia and all the different ranges that it involves could join us in changing agriculture. Thank you.